Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And we have a little bit of good news for a change. It seems from the latest polling results that come the next Holyrood elections, the leader of the SNP, Humza Yousaf, hater of white people and absolute racist, is likely to lose his seat. It's going to go red to Labour. Even his own people are fed up with him because they just see him as a loser. One of Scotland's worst ever MPs, MSPs, politicians is about to be fired from his leading role as the party leader to absolute obscurity. Because if he loses his seat, what's he going to do? He's got nothing else. He's not capable, he's not educated enough, he's not trained enough, he's got nothing going for him. Nobody's going to hire him. He's got no life skills. He's about as charming as a road accident. And, all he's got left is the very fact that he can play the race card. But even that won't work for him, because what's he going to do? Who's he going to play it against? He comes from a very brown area. They vote Labour. He's absolutely screwed. And indeed, the whole of the SNP are. But it is just joyous to read this. Let's have a look at this and see what's going on. So, poll misery for Humza Yousaf as SNP leader set to lose his seat, while Holyrood's pro-Indie majority will be smashed. And it is joyous to read. Let the bells ring out. And it isn't even Christmas. The First Minister's Glasgow Pollock seat is among those tipped to turn red for Labour at the next Scottish Parliament vote, in another crushing blow for the SNP leader's credibility. The only question is when will that vote be? There's moves afoot to shift it forward a year, back to the fourth year point in 2025, May 25, rather than letting it drag out till May 26, at what point they can absolutely just scorch earth the entirety of Scotland, which is what they're doing. And he, the ultimate loser, the failure at everything he's done, will fail once again as leader, and it will be fantastic. Hapless Humza Useless has been dealt another crushing blow with a new poll predicting the pro-Skexit majority at Holyrood is about to be smashed. The SNP leader's Glasgow Pollock seat is among those tipped to fall to Labour when the country next goes to the polls. Mr Yousaf has failed to galvanise his supporters since taking over from Nicola Sturgeon and has already suffered damaging by-election defeats at Westminster and council level. The SNP was hammered in Rutherglen and Hambleton West. It assigned voters have become fed up with their constitutional obsession and series of complete failures, and the fact that they've tied themselves at the tail to the little green dog that is wagging them. It is absolutely appalling what they've done. Nothing that they've tried has gone through. They are failure after failure after failure, and even their own supporters have had enough and they're abandoning ship. And when you're getting the likes of senior MSPs and MPs jumping ship at every available opportunity, you know the game is up. You know you've been rumbled, you've been found out, and it is all going away. All you've done will be gone. Nicola Sturgeon's legacy will be destroyed, hopefully with her in prison at the time. Humza Yousaf, a man who then becomes unemployable for the remainder of his sad life, and whose current wife will probably leave him because she doesn't want to be tied to a loser either. Anyway, there is little respite in the recent polls, with the new survey suggesting the Nats will lose 17 seats when Scotland next goes to the polls to elect members of the Scottish Parliament, despite the Scottish Greens on course to add to their numbers. Really? It means there will be a unionist party a unionist majority, at Holyrood of 11 MSPs. The analysis was carried out by Ballot Box Scotland and based on a YouGov poll conducted between October 20 and 25 for Scoop. It showed the SNP on course to win 34% of the constituency vote and 30% on the regional list. The thing is, even if the Greens win another seat, it won't be a ministerial seat, and that's the important thing. You've got to keep them out of government whatever happens. Scottish Labour continues to narrow the gap, and it's likely to pick up 32% in the constituency poll and 30% on the list. The Scottish Conservatives are tipped to win 14% in both votes, while the Lib Dems would win 9% in constituency and 8% on the list. Scottish Greens are on 7% for the constituency vote and 10% on the list, which is astonishing. Then a further blow to the nationalists, Alex Salmond's Alba Party is predicted to win just 2% on the regional list, less than Reform UK. How embarrassing for Alex Salmond when he can't even beat Reform. I'm not going to sort of go through this scene. What I will do is I'll push this up here. I'll give it a few seconds. You can then pause the video if you want to look at that. And then we'll have a look at that, which is the share. And again, you can pause the video if you want to look at that. Anyway, Ballot Box Scotland has calculated that if those results were replicated at an election, the SNP would win 46 seats, down from the 63 it currently has. Scottish Labour would form the second biggest group with 43 MSPs, while Scottish Conservatives would have 17. The Greens would win 13 seats and the Lib Dems 10. The poll also shows another clear lead for the Union in the event of a second independence referendum, because once the don't knows are removed, it suggests the country would vote 55% to 45% to remain in the UK. The same result as recording in 2014. So they're actually not doing anything despite spending millions upon millions of pounds, money that could be better spent in the NHS or social care, and he's achieved nothing in 10 years. He's not moved except wasting money. He is a serial loser. He's going to lose his seat, and if he loses his seat, then we all win, regardless of who you vote for. And it does go to show that the Unionists can win. They can form a Unionist coalition, a grand coalition of Unionist parties to keep the SNP out. And that's only at the current rate. And given what's happening everywhere else, that's likely to change. The SNP are falling apart and they're losing people left, right and centre. And if you think you're losing the experienced ones, think of the nutters coming up through the ranks that are only going to make things worse. Deary, deary me. But of course, the most important thing, and it really is the most important thing, is the Westminster election, because that comes first. And if they get wiped at the Westminster election and they lose all this money, they go into administration. And that would be the end of the SNP. They couldn't even be a party. They would have to be independents. They're not going to exist. And so they might not even get that many seats at the next election at Holyrood. They'll be gone. They'll be finished as a force. And I don't think anyone would lose sleep or cry me a river over that. What a loser. What a hate-filled, anti-white, anti-Scottish, anti-British, anti-Western, hate-filled piece of trash that man is. Still, he can always go and live in Gaza. Seems to be very popular for him, doesn't it? Filled with people he admires so much. Anyway, so around there, and I shall come up.